Steph Curry's underrated documentary is spectacular. It is a remarkable coming-of-age story of Steph Curry, one of the most influential, dynamic, and unexpected players in basketball history, along with his rise from an undersized college player to a four-time NBA champion. This documentary goes beyond what we know Steph Curry to be and what we have heard from him. Obviously, he goes in depth talking about his college basketball coach who recruited him and gave him the green light to showcase his shooting ability. But what Steph doesn't go into is the details that he really went through in his first few days, first few weeks, and first few practices as a college basketball player. We know Steph Curry today as the greatest shooter of all time, but it wasn't always like that for Steph Curry. Many people believe Steph Curry's career started in 2015 when he first won his NBA championship, but not too many people know about the ankle injuries that he really went through in his first couple years in the NBA. He went through 3 separate injuries, multiple coming in the ankle in his third season, one coming in his second season. Steph Curry has been through hell and back, and now in his documentary, we are celebrating it, and I won't even lie to you guys, I shed a tear in this documentary. At the end of the documentary, it did bring me to tears. I'm not gonna say the tears, but I dropped that one tear. You know how it is, guys. But that has only happened to me 2 times. And one was when LeBron broke the scoring record. And this is another moment. Steph Curry in this documentary was very open about his situation. Throughout the good, the bad, the highs, the lows, Steph Curry, if you don't think he's great now or underrated, you will think so. The documentary starts off with Reggie Miller reading off Steph Curry's draft report, saying he wasn't too strong. How is he going to play this one guard? He's too short to play the 2. He doesn't know how to control an offense. All of these things were said about Steph Curry in the pre-draft process. However, with all those doubts, Steph Curry still entered his name in the 2009 NBA draft and went 7th overall to the Golden State Warriors. But prior to that, it wasn't that easy to go 7th overall in the draft. Growing up with his dad in the NBA, obviously people knew about Steph Curry, not to the degree that people know now. There are a lot of previous role players who were former NBA players who have kids now that are in the circuit and are pretty big names. However, it wasn't like that for Steph Curry due to his dad being a role player and not being in a very social media heavy era. Steph Curry wasn't highly recruited. He didn't get recruited till about his junior year of high school. He was very small, very short, and people wondered if that was going to translate to the next level. You asked Steph Curry when he was 14 years old. He wouldn't have an answer for you if he was going to make it to the next level or even go to the NBA for that matter. However, he trained with his father, worked hard, and really, worked hard. Fixed his shot from his waist, brought it up to the chest, the eye level where you're supposed to be shooting. Steph Curry worked for it. He got his shot up. And if I'm not mistaken, in the documentary, they said Davidson was really the only school that recruited Steph Curry. They were the only school to offer him, I believe. He wanted to go to Virginia Tech, obviously the Dukes. They didn't want him. They wanted him as walk-ons. However, Steph Curry worked hard, put his head down, and got that Davidson offer. Davidson, while recruiting Steph, they were calling his phone, continuously. They really wanted him because they seen something special in the kid. And then Steph Curry just stopped talking to them and stopped replying. 2 weeks later, Steph calls him, says, "Sorry, my mom took my phone because somebody sent me a bad word, a bad curse word." And that was a funny story for Steph because they thought he wasn't interested. They thought other school was going to offer him and get involved in the process, but no, he just got his phone taken away. So that's just a funny story that they really wanted Steph that bad that they still stuck around after 2 weeks of silence. And obviously Steph Curry goes to Davidson, and he says in the documentary, practice was rough for Steph. They had a nice veteran point guard coming back for his second year when Steph was entering as a freshman. He guarded him throughout practices and was giving Steph hell. We don't even know where he is now. Obviously he was in the documentary, but we don't know what he does now. I don't even know if he still plays basketball. I'm pretty sure he doesn't. But his name was Jason Richards, point guard. And that was Steph Curry's matchup his first couple years. And he gave Steph hell the first couple practices. Steph said that, that was a moment Steph wanted to, just give it all up and say he wasn't ready for the level. But Steph, he put his head down, worked again, and he made an impact and made an impression in practice. Steph got to start his first preseason game against Eastern Michigan, turned the ball over 13 times, was completely shook. The coaching staff needed to make a decision. And the thing I love about Coach McKillop is that he instilled confidence into Steph Curry. Without Coach McKillop, Steph Curry wouldn't be the Steph we know today. Coach McKillop started Steph Curry after he turned the ball over 13 times, and Steph Curry had 32 points that game. Since then, it's been up and up and up for Steph. His freshman year, Davidson makes it to the tournament and loses in the first round. Okay, Davidson hasn't won a tournament game since 1968. Steph Curry's sophomore season, he comes back, obviously lights it up from 3, but they make it to the Elite Eight. And Steph Curry, that's when we get that Steph Curry moment, the moment we all know is Steph Curry. The Sweet 16 game, I believe, when LeBron shows up and he lights it up and hits the game-winning shot to send them to the Elite Eight. And in the Elite Eight game, Steph Curry was lighting it up again. They almost went to the Final Four, but they were playing against Kansas, obviously a blue-blooded team, and he passes the game-winning shot to give to his teammate Jason Richards, the starting point guard, and he misses it. And that is how the Davidson Wildcats lost in the Elite Eight. His teammate missed a shot. It's a make or miss kind of game, and his teammate missed a shot. You live and you learn from that moment, and the Davidson Wildcats come back. And obviously, their run is not as spectacular as it was in Steph's sophomore year, but nonetheless, Steph Curry still played well enough in draft conversations. Steph enters the draft, goes 7th overall. But what I really like about this story is that Steph Curry wasn't a blue chip prospect. He wasn't a can't miss prospect. However, Coach McKillop and the Davidson staff viewed him as a can't miss prospect. They seen the remarkable shooting ability even prior to Steph changing his form and elevating it to a higher function. Steph Curry, he comes from a great family, and his family instilled a lot of confidence in him, a lot of focus, and put his head in the right spaces. Along with Coach McKillop, probably the greatest coach Steph has ever had, he gave him the ultimate green light. In the documentary, announcers were like, how do you give a kid a green light even after they miss one shot, their first shot? And Steph had that green light. He missed a shot, come back, shoot another one, and it's cash. Like, you can't make this stuff up for Steph Curry. But it almost sounds like a fairy tale. The 5'5" kid, small, soaking wet 150 when he gets to college in shoes, about 6 foot flat, grows to 6'3" by the time he's in the league. Steph, his story is phenomenal, and the underrated documentary should be something that is celebrated. It's arguably the greatest documentary I've ever seen in my life, and I love sports documentaries, but that underrated documentary is probably the greatest one I've ever seen until LeBron drops his documentary. But nonetheless, this coming of age story is phenomenal. Ryan Coogler, the producer of this film, did a phenomenal job, and as I was watching the movie, I was obviously saying the movie was great, but as the credits rolled and I seen Ryan Coogler's name, I can tell this is a Ryan Coogler project. The documentary is a 10 out of 10, and Steph Curry should be appreciated and celebrated after this. The 4-time champion, arguably one of, if not the greatest point guard of all time, has one of the best stories of all time, if not the best. Obviously, for the smaller guys, the guys who aren't athletic, that's a great word, not athletic. This is very inspiring, and it should inspire you all to just chase your dreams. And Steph chased his dreams, and he became the greatest shooter of all time. The odds weren't on his side. However, he worked hard. That is the key. That's working hard. If you work hard, your dreams will come. That's all I got for you guys. That's all I got. But I'm One Chermy. If you guys all enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. Road to 1K. I'm out.